So with regards to the TikTok ban that's now been in place since yesterday on Sunday, there is a bit of wiggle room. There's a bit of wiggle room for people that feel kicked out of the space, that the TikTok refugees are looking elsewhere. I just want to show this, for instance. This is from Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, where she actually voted no on the banning of TikTok. And she makes the case for this. She says, I voted no on the TikTok ban because it's a violation of America's free speech. If we are going to stand up to China, we should be banning them from buying our farmland next to our military bases, force ownership of our businesses and technology through trade, and so much more. That's great points. That's actually great points that not none of these politicians are addressing when it comes to Chinese influence. They're not talking about them buying farmland. They're not talking about how our trade, how businesses are collaborating to ship jobs overseas because it's cheaper to work with the Chinese people under communist regime than it is to exploit American work. They're not talking about that. But they're talking about banning TikTok. It's again, it's all about narrative control. Many of your apps steal your data, not just TikTok. Pay very close attention to the statement on TikTok app who can bring it back. President Trump. The Democrats violate your right on every level for the past 4 years through COVID lockdowns, social media censorship, forced vaccinations, political lawfare, and disgusting trans propaganda taught in our children's schools. Tomorrow, the American public are going to be liberated from the tyrants that have abused their power and abused our people. Finding a way to bring TikTok back will be the beginning of what we can accomplish under President Trump for the next 4 years. So it's been noted that Donald Trump is looking towards possibly negotiating a deal to bring TikTok back, whether that being an American company buying the application, whether it being some sort of negotiation where China has to sell off ByteDance. We don't know for sure, but there is some wiggle room compared to Joe Biden. And this also came to be that the great social media migration, sudden influx of US users to RedNote, connects Chinese and Americans like never before. So this is an article from CNN where they said as Supreme Court justices ponder the future of TikTok in the United States, a growing number of American social media users have responded by moving to an unlikely alternative. I don't even want to know how to pronounce that. Shu, not even going to try. A hugely popular social media app in China. The app, which means Little Red Book, often shortened by US users to Red Note, surged to the top position of Apple's US App Store on Tuesday. Founded in 2013, RedNote is one of China's biggest social media platforms with 300 million users, according to research firm Guangqua, described as China's answer to Instagram. The app has become especially popular for sharing tips on travel, makeup, and fashion. The sudden migration of US users to Redbook has created an unlikely platform for Chinese and American users to interact with each other. I just want to reassure you that we want to try to find a way to communicate with you. Be respectful to your community, one user said. We want to be good guests. Some American newbies have appealed to their compatriots to respect Chinese users on the platform. Just a quick message for the American users coming over here: please don't bring please don't bring politics here. We want to have fun. We want to enjoy here, and we want to show respect to the people who are already here. One user posted. Most Chinese users have warmly welcomed the newcomers, with some even sharing video tutorials to help the new TikTok refugees navigate the app. This could be a historic moment, one Chinese user commented. It feels like such more has changed in an instant. Ordinary people from two countries have never really connected before. I hope everyone can take this brief chance to engage in meaningful exchanges of ideas. One person even sees the opportunity presented by the influx of American citizens to ask for help with their English homework in a viral post that garnered over 2,000 likes. So it seems like this application is bringing people together, is connecting people and connecting cultures, and we're learning from one another, which is the whole intention of social media, the whole intention of why we have Facebook, why we have Twitter, why we have Instagram, is that we're supposed to be able to connect with each other in a meaningful way and express ideas and our cultures and share things with one another. But since corporate entities, since lobby firms, since a lot of governments have intervened in the means of these social media platforms, they have now been dispersed from the original intentions of social media and have gone to whatever we are right now, where really governments have control on what is being allowed on social media platforms. And even though it's a violation for the government to forcibly restrict your speech on their behalf, they're using big tech companies to pressure them into silencing the speech for you. And that is how they're violating people's um, speech on social media. And one of the reasons why this may be controversial is because a lot of these American users and Canadian users that are going on to Redbook are noticing things about China that they never heard before. And it seems like people are sharing and expressing each other's interests in their country and learning a lot about Chinese culture, including this guy who went on to RedNote and talked about how he almost had a culture shock moment or a red pill moment about the way of life in China. Listen to this.
Well, I gotta tell you something. We have been fed so much bullshit. You really need to go and sign up for RedNote. Just go and peruse the site. It's mind blowing. The kindness, the generosity that the Chinese people are showing to the Americans who come on there, the way they're welcoming them. Yes, they're asking them to follow the guidelines of their app, which is standard practice. But when you start looking at what you see on RedNote versus what the governments have been handing us for propaganda and bullshit, my God, man, I spent a couple hours just going through the site, and really, it's worth the time for you to just sign up, go onto the site, and you don't even have to set up a full account to go and look. But, like, the amount of money that they have to spend on groceries, for example, is peanuts compared to what we pay here in Canada, and I'm sure the same in the U.S. It's like night and day. Their world there is so much better than the way they portray it. They're not a repressed people. They're intelligent. They're not what they try and tell us, that they are evil. China, 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 as Trump would say. Go have a look. Seriously, you're going to get a rude awakening about the truth and the propaganda that we've been hand-fed for years, that China's our enemy. They're not our enemy. Our enemy are the people who sit in those fancy chairs in Congress and Senates and politicians, the rich, the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world, the people who hand us BS. I have to say that I got an education in the last 24 hours, just going through that site, watching various videos. Now, it's not TikTok. It's more of it's slightly different than TikTok, but it's good. And it's unbelievable to see how many people will welcome you. Go have a look. Take care, my friends. God bless. And let's put an end to the government's nonsense, both Canada, US, and around the world. China is not an evil place. China is not a place where they repress their citizens. I mean, yeah, there's things they can't do and things they can't say. But they live a healthy and prosperous life there. It's different. Go see for yourself. Give me your feedback when you're done. I'm curious to know what you think. Take care, my friends. All the best.
There you go. That was just one of these kind of Western users that are now flooding onto RedNote, and they're getting a culture shock. They're getting a real education of what it's actually like to be there. And it almost, just hearing that and watching that kind of reminds me of when Anthony Bourdain had his travel show on CNN, which was probably the last thing CNN ever of quality of watching that they ever produced. Uh, Went over to Iran. He had an episode where he went to Iran, and it was in the midst of one of the highest, propagandized scenarios where they were trying to, tell Americans that this is where terrorism comes from. There are a bunch of towel heads over there, and oh, they're just crazed maniacs over there. They live in dust bowls, and oh, it's just an absolute mess. And the guys that are leading it are just absolutely corrupted. And Anthony Bourdain, through his travel show, through his cooking show, Parts Unknown, I think it's called, went over there and got himself a cultural shock and showcased Americans who were watching that program to say, this is not the Iran I thought I knew. This is not what I thought it was going to be. I went over there and they were welcoming. They invited me to their homes. They fed me food. I got to experience the highs and lows of Iranian society. And you know what? They're not really that different compared to us. Yeah, you might not find a McDonald's every 3 feet like New York City, but the kids go to school. The husband works. The wife is at home cooking and cleaning. How many American families also do that? So you really get a sense of the world, these applications, when you actually get to see face to face. And this is almost like having the luxury of traveling to these places if you can't actually travel. Because obviously, if you go to China, it's a different experience than just seeing it through a phone application. But people that are watching this, going on to RedNote and watching these videos and experiencing what Chinese life is like, it's fascinating. It's fascinating. And that's why I'm kind of fascinated with travel shows. That's why I tend to watch, Anthony Bourdain and all these other places, because you actually get to see firsthand experience of all these different areas that don't even don't even know about until you actually see it firsthand. And the people that are telling you what these countries are like are the complete opposite of what it actually is. And the same goes with China, the same goes with Russia, the same goes with any place they have propagandized people. They tell you about Venezuela being this poor, impoverished area and how people are starving on the streets. They're beating each other up. There's cannibals out there because of people like Nicolas Maduro, and how dare that leader does what he does with socialism and communism. And then you watch actual journalists like Max Blumenthal go down there, and it seems relatively pleasant. Relatively pleasant. It actually looks like a decent city. It looks no different than southern cities in the United States. So people are really getting a huge awakening to this, which is why now this is also on the chopping block. Because now politicians are really worried. They're worried that, oh my God, now that we got TikTok out of the way, God, there's another application. How are we going to seize control of the narrative when people start going to other places? God, I hate it's like they're really angry at the free market, but they can't really say they're angry at the free. They don't want an actual free market of exchanges and ideas. Ironically, because it interferes with the corporate stature and the narrative control that they all want to do. So here's what Donald Trump is saying about TikTok. Now they've stated that Donald Trump is going to look at possibly getting the TikTok ban reversed if they can work out a deal to either sell off some of the assets to an American investor, if they could sell off ByteDance, do something like that. Maybe there's a wiggle room to get TikTok back. Obviously, we know this really came from the ADL. This really came from Israel and APEC. So we don't even know if this is going to happen. But here's what Trump had to say. It says, I'm asking companies not to let TikTok stay dark. I will issue an executive order on Monday, today, to extend the period of time before the law's prohibitions take effect so that we can reach a deal to protect our national security. The order will also confirm that there will be no liability for any company that helped keep TikTok from going dark before my order. Americans deserve to see our exciting inauguration on Monday, as well as other events and conversations. I would like the United States to have 50% ownership position in a joint venture. By doing this, we save TikTok, keep it in good hands, and allow it to stay up. Without U.S. approval, there is no TikTok. With our approval, it is worth hundreds of billions of dollars, maybe trillions. Therefore, my initial thought is a joint venture between the current owners and their new owners, whereby the U.S. gets 50% ownership in a joint venture set up between the U.S. and whichever purchase we so choose. So, this is the thing. This is what gives me some sort of hope in this Trump administration, this new coming Trump administration, is that there is some bit of wiggle room. There is a bit of back and forth. There could be a conversation that, for example, with TikTok, we can get it reinstated. That it won't be a complete ban. It won't be a complete loss, as the rest of politicians are doubling down on this rhetoric to completely diminish TikTok and social media, and not allowing these people to express on the platform. So Donald Trump is looking at, well, there's a business aspect to it. Which, yeah, rightfully so. Because look at how many TikTok influencers there are. Look at how much business TikTok gets and generates through its platform on an average day. A lot of small businesses use TikTok. A lot of large businesses use TikTok. They have marketplaces. They have stores. There's people that do influence videos. There's people that do makeup tutorials and then they sell their products. There's a huge marketing tool that Donald Trump is now looking at and saying, well, maybe we can work something out. Whereas Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Republicans, and Democrats, predominantly mostly the ones that are sided with APEC for obvious reasons, are looking at TikTok and saying, no, we can't allow this. We cannot allow this, and making every excuse in the book. They're saying everything from stealing their data to, oh, we're brainwashing kids and their mental health is acute. And you can make that argument on every social media site, but they're not going to diminish. They're not going to diminish the internet. So, at least looking forward, Donald Trump at least can be negotiable to maybe reinstate TikTok. So, folks, if you saw that screen, if you're worried about your account, there might be hope. There might be light at the end of this tunnel. We'll wait and see what comes out of it. This is brought to you by Ground News, the versatile news app and website that gathers all the world's media on one place and allows users to compare coverage. Ground News gives you the access of thousands of sources worldwide, allows you to see the media blind spots, and even gives analysis on the bias and factuality of those stories. Weave your way through the mainstream narratives, the corporate lies, and have total access to find complete information that you deserve. Click on the link below and get 15% off a subscription. Be critical, be informed, be ground.